Welcome back to another episode of Indiana Football in Review. John Alden with you as always, former wide receiver Mitchell Paige with us as well. Here to talk about Indiana's most recent performance, Indiana football's most recent performance. Went to College Station, or excuse me, it's not College Station,
Happy
College
Valley.
Park. Happy Valley. College Station's Texas A&M, College Park is Maryland, and Happy Valley, a.k.a. University Park. They're all in that same vein of weird town names that have the word college or university in their name. Anyway, Indiana was in University Park, Pennsylvania, which is also known as Happy Valley, also known as State College. And Jesus,
that's a lot of names.
Yeah, a lot of names for Penn State. I believe I actually talked about this before. Back when we did the This Week in Indiana Football podcast, we had a writer on from Penn State, and we discussed why Penn State has so many different names in which their town is, I guess, where it comes from, that kind of thing. But anyway, already off on a tangent. Indiana went to State College, took on Penn State, lost 33-24 in a matchup that, I mean, obviously most fans by this point in the season, definitely you and I, Mitchell, there were no expectations, little expectations, if anything, coming into this. And honestly, many people, myself included, kind of just thinking, you know what, just tank the rest of the season just so the administration has a reason to move on. Well, we kind of got something that we didn't expect this week, and that was a competitive team that had a chance to win in the fourth quarter, late in the fourth quarter for that matter. And some decisions down the stretch, many thought were questionable, and rightfully so, I would say. Well, and before we get into it, when I say questionable, I'm not saying what's right or wrong, but the fact that what makes it questionable is the fact that there are many people on both sides that think the right things were done and the wrong things were done. Yeah. And we'll get into that here in a bit.
I would actually say I think I'm in the big time minority, and we'll get into what I think, but I think I'm in the less than 5% crowd. I think that I'm 100% right. And if you were on Twitter this weekend and followed me at all, you saw that I was going to battle for what I think. But we'll get into it. I had a blast on Twitter. So anyone listening that interacted with me, just know that I was having as much fun as possible. I was not hopefully nothing was malicious or came off as malicious. I was just having fun. That's why Twitter's the best. So
yeah, we'll get into that in a little bit, but yeah, we'll just leave it at that. So I guess as things got underway, the typical Indiana football game start took place. And what I mean by that is for the past few weeks, Indiana's been getting up to 7-0 leads. Against Michigan, it happened. Rutgers, it happened. It happened again against Penn State. Not in the opening drive, just to confirm that. It was about halfway through the first quarter, and then Penn State was able to answer. But Indiana didn't falter the way they had in the past few games. This was competitive for the entire first half. You made some mistakes down the stretch that allowed Penn State to get the lead at halftime, and then you come back and you stay in the game. Obviously, Penn State did get off to a 10-point lead once the second half came back. But I guess just the biggest takeaway was the fact that Indiana put forth an offense that we hadn't seen really this whole season. And not that it was super impressive, but it was competent. And it was the first time that the team in general looked competent against anybody since the second half of the Louisville game. Mitchell, would you agree?
Yeah. And I think this, in a more broad sense, it showed a bunch of different things. One, how important it is to have some momentum. When you get the first play, the first touchdown doesn't come in the first drive. That game's set up by the way the defense played. And that's going to come into that's going to be a really big factor when we get later into this recap. The defense set the tone. We came out, went 3 and out, and the defense held firm. Penn State's one of the most prolific, if not the most prolific offenses. If you look specifically at stats in terms of points and yards per game, that is in the country. They're as good as anybody, scoring a bunch and getting a bunch of yards, and they couldn't do anything against us. And when you finally pop the screen and go, and you have a guy that makes a great play, it's a long touchdown, you start to feel good about your offense. Okay, we can score. We can stop them. Then you get a completely blown coverage that leads to another touchdown. When you can play with some momentum, it's amazing how quickly your confidence can switch. Indiana, everybody talks about, and this was part of the broadcast that they kept saying a bunch, is the difference in the athletes. Oh, they don't have the same athletes. They don't, maybe not exactly the same caliber, but at most positions, it is the same caliber.
Yeah.
We have maybe one or two less freaks, the Marvin Harrison Juniors of the world, but that's really the difference. And then when the teams that separate themselves, those teams have depth, but we have the same athletes. Like, we have guys that would start at Penn State. We have guys that would start at Michigan. We have guys that would go to Ohio State and play. Like, that was one of the most frustrating things to, specifically the McCourty brother kept saying how different the athletes were. And in my experience, it's just not the case.
And another thing too, while we're on that specific part, a lot of people forget, just because of the results from the past 2 or 3 seasons, that we're not too far removed from the best recruiting class in Indiana football history. Right. Now, I know a few of those guys have moved on, including the star of that class, which is Dason McCullough. But that doesn't mean that you don't have there were obviously complementary pieces to that got you to have that good of a class in the first place. And a lot of those guys, Omar Cooper, Donovan McCulley, they're still around. So
and we did all of this
to tack on what you were saying with that.
We did all of this without our best receiver. I think Cam Camper would start at any college, probably in the country, if he could stay healthy. He runs really crisp routes. He catches everything. He fights for yards after the catch. That kid is a monster, and he didn't even play. So you go to Penn State. I'm going to keep referencing Twitter, but it felt like the only way that Indiana had a chance is truly if Penn State didn't come. When you look at kind of where their season's gone, the way our season's gone, that's the way that it felt a little bit. And when you get some momentum, it builds on each other, and then you can kind of just roll the balls out. You've got an offensive line that's moving the line of scrimmage. You've got running backs that are running hard. Trent Howland continues to just be a tank. Henderson being back, getting him into the rhythm. He's always been a downhill dude. Just a really complimentary, it was real offense. I think I texted you guys that it was runs setting up the pass and taking advantage. Okay, Penn State blows the coverage. You still have to have your freshman quarterback pull that ball and throw it. He's got to recognize the corner blitz, get it out in time, navigate the corner, throwing his arms up, and still get it to the receiver so he can run for a touchdown. You still have to make those plays, and they did. We're capable. When you get that momentum, you see it everywhere in college football. I think Virginia last week at North Carolina, another top 10 team. They get a little bit of confidence. You let them linger. Let Indiana hang around, punch back. Don't capitalize on some plays for Penn State when they're on offense. And then all of a sudden you got a nail-biter of a game. And I thought it was the most impressive thing for the entire season when Penn State's going to get the ball first coming out of halftime. You have a bonehead play. No one in college football can catch punts. It's shocking to me. Watching on Saturday, it makes me ill watching these guys drop punts. It is crazy. But you have that happen. Penn State scores right before half. Then they go and march right down the field, score first possession of the second half. And you're thinking, as an Indiana fan, we're down 24-14.
You're thinking they're shutting the door, and that's it.
This is going to be 45.
First half.
Exactly. This is going to be 45-14 before we even know it. And then it's not. And then we punch them back, and we put together a really good drive. We score on an unbelievable throw and catch from the quarterback. He gets hurt. Now I don't want to get into. Let's wait into this, but it's just the way that they battle, man. That's what we're looking for. You don't want to say the Indiana of old, but for the past 10 years, excluding the last two, so I guess 3 through 10, Indiana's always been in those games. They've always put themselves in a position to win. And it doesn't always happen. Most of the time it doesn't. But you have to get there. You have to be in that position. And they've been so uncompetitive. It was fun to watch them. I had fun watching them for the first time since
2020, maybe?
Yeah. It's been a minute.
Or at least the second half of the Louisville game this year.
It's been a minute. They put together a bunch of drives. The defense played great. That's my overall analysis.
Yeah, and obviously a lot of when you look at the other side of the coin, the Penn State fan base, and again, this is coming from somebody who has never experienced the level of success as a fan as Penn State has, but they, for the past couple of years, not even just this season, they've been on James Franklin's ass. Excuse my language. I usually don't say something like that on this podcast. They've been on James Franklin for not, getting it done against Ohio State and Michigan, that kind of thing. And they put in a letdown performance against Indiana, and they think the sky is falling. And maybe it is. Is Penn State really just not that good of a team, or did Indiana actually show up to play? Because one thing we have seen from Indiana in the past few years is that when their backs are against the wall, they usually come out and show that they have some life. And that's exactly what happened this weekend. I guess essentially what this is, the proof in the pudding here is that if they continue to play like this against Wisconsin next week, Illinois after that, Michigan State and Purdue, and you close out your season on a high note, then you might be able to see a future with not only the current roster, but with the people you still have in place. I hate being in this position, like mentally, like thinking about what should happen at the end of the year. And I'm going down a path I really don't want to go down, so I'll just stop myself there. But we're in no man's land. Last week, I thought I knew where things were going, and this week, all of that's kind of been put on delay for now. But anyway, with that being said, let's go ahead and dive into, I guess, the last result, the last part of this game, which was where Indiana has a chance to potentially get the go-ahead touchdown. They're in Penn State territory, and they decide to kick a field goal. And a lot of people clamoring for, to go for 6 instead, and Mitchell already shaking his head because he was the counter to this. And along with that, let me back myself up real quick. A lot of people understand that Brendan Sorsby was not given the ball to throw because of he was kind of out of it. He was hurt at that point. And a lot of people arguing that Taven should have been brought in to handle those last few plays of the game, but that didn't happen, obviously. Mitchell, I'll go ahead and give you the floor because I know you got eons of thoughts on this, I'm sure, and you can get into what happened on Twitter as well. But what's your thought process on what the coaching staff did and what should have been done, what wasn't done, all that stuff?
Yeah, I'm typically not somebody that like calls for anybody's jobs or anything. Like, I just like to watch Indiana. The way that Indiana played the last part of the game was 100% correct. And I will go to my deathbed saying that. The people that say, go for the touchdown, Indiana never wins those games, you're a loser talk, whatever. I called them schmoes on Twitter. I think they're dumb, is what I think. I think that is a really, really dumb take because you're looking at 25 seconds of the game versus the entire game, 58 minutes up to that point. The previous drive, Indiana didn't throw a 60-yard touchdown pass. Indiana ran for 6, they ran for 5, they ran for 7, they ran for 11, they ran for 8. They went right down the field running the ball. So, with that being said, you go right down the field and you throw a play action slant off of the run game that you have set up because you've been so successful running the ball. So that's the stage that we're on. I want people to think about that, actually think about the game. We run the ball right down their throat for 7 points. We've brought them all up on the line of scrimmage. We've just beat them for a 25-yard touchdown on a simple RPO, one-on-one coverage because they got everybody in the box. On that play, your quarterback that you've rode with for the entire game that's been unbelievable has been awesome. He's clearly a leader on the team. Guys are looking to him. Takes a big shot on his throwing shoulder on a run, lowers his shoulder, runs a guy over. He's a heart and soul guy of this team. If you've ever played at a decently high level, there's a good chance that you've taken a shot like that. If you've never played, you have no idea what this feels like, which is probably most of the people.
Which is me.
Yeah,
I'm throw that out there.
And I've never really taken the shot either. Everything that I'm talking about comes from quarterbacks. When you take that shot straight to a shoulder, it's basically like a stinger dead arm. My guess would be probably some kind of AC joint issue. When you have that, you can't even lift your arm. You saw him wincing when he's holding it out. We get the stop, get an interception. Unbelievable, right? Your quarterback is 2 minutes removed from barely being able to lift his arm. He looked better on the sideline. Let's talk Sorsby versus Taven Jackson. A couple weeks ago, on this same review, we were talking about how silly it was to put Taven Jackson into the game cold after just a half. 1 half of not playing. He hasn't played any. He's got no rhythm. You throw him in there, expect him to throw a touchdown. He throws a pick on literally the first play. Everybody loses their mind about how stupid that was, put the kid in the wrong. I myself tweeted, cannot believe you put the kid in that position. Fast forward 2 weeks, Tom Allen learned from that.
Yep.
Do not put the kid in that hasn't, not just for a half, has not played one snap for 58 minutes. And the fans expect him to come in and just gunsling on the number one. I mean, they literally allow 200 yards of offense. Number one in America on defense in terms of yards per game. They flashed that stat 7 times throughout the game. You're going to expect Taven Jackson, who has not played, has no rhythm, has no feel for the speed of the game, has never played in an environment like that, to come in and throw a touchdown pass? Lead the game-winning drive with 2 minutes left against Penn State? You're crazy. You hand the ball off. Hopefully you get 8. If you get 8 yards on that first play, that drive looks a lot different. That's what people don't understand. They're not playing on the 1st and 10. They're not playing for a field goal. They're doing what was working, which is running the ball. You run the ball, you don't get any. Now all of a sudden your plans change. Now you've got a 2nd and long. If we can get to 3rd and 5, maybe they throw it. But on 2nd and long, you're going to get a lot more relaxed coverage. You're going to get guys playing at the sticks. You're going to get much tighter windows. So now you hand the ball off again, hoping on a lighter box you can run it. Doesn't work again. Now you've got 3rd and long. Now you're going to have the tightest windows, probably get pressure, would be my guess. Heat up a kid that the defense knows is hurt. Manny Diaz showed pressure a bunch, especially that corner blitz. We scored a touchdown once on it. Also got lit up. Came with that blitz a whole bunch. We were having real hard time sorting to it. Just really, really a hard time. So on 3rd and 8, the smart thing to do when you know you don't have the best kicker, can't take a snap, or can't take a sack, I think the kicker is okay. We just don't know if he's good.
He's never really been in the position where he's had to show that he's good.
You have no idea what the kicker can do. He's got a chip shot field goal. This is the one that you want. If you're going to figure out if this kid can do it or not, the one you want is right in the middle of the field from 40 yards. That's a chip shot. Kick it through the uprights. Let's see what he can do. So you hand the ball off. Sit on it. Your defense has been great. Kicker kicks it out of the end zone every time. You've had that pooch kick that has, I don't know why everyone doesn't do that. Kick it to that kid on the 25-yard line, make him fair catch it. They get it there anyways, and that kid's not going to run for a touchdown, but that's a second issue. Let your defense try to win the game. They just got you a stop. They just forced an interception. What leads you to believe that all of a sudden they're going to throw an 80-yard touchdown pass, which obviously, of course, they do. And as I'm tweeting what I was tweeting, they're going 80 yards for a touchdown, and I look like an idiot. But
I do got to say, though, and I don't mean to interrupt, I've noticed, I feel like way too many times in big game scenarios, towards the end of the game, whenever Indiana is facing an opponent that, and I hate to go back into this, with a roster that where they feel like they know they're better than Indiana, I feel like they're always able to just will their way to a 60, 70, 80-yard touchdown because they know that's the only time in the game where they realize those kinds of things. And I know that's not, I don't want to say I'm just making that up. That's the way that I feel about it sometimes.
Yeah, and I have that same feeling, and it sucks. The reason that you feel like that is we've been in the position a whole bunch.
Yeah.
By playing tough, getting ourselves into a position where if Penn State doesn't go down the field in a minute 40, which they hadn't completed a pass longer than 12 yards the entire game, they're going to have to run the ball and run the clock out probably. Drew Allar had not played well, hadn't completed any big passes. There was no reason to believe that was going to happen. The way they handled that offensive possession was 100% correct. If you don't get a chunk on the first snap, play for the field goal. That first snap dictated everything. If they could have got 8, get Penn State on their heels, then all of a sudden you run. Think about the opposite, right? Let's say they get 10 yards on the first play. Then they get 4 yards, and then they get you start to get some momentum. Now you're running the ball. Think about how smart. Oh, wow, Tom Allen was so smart. He kept the ball on the ground. He stayed with what was working. Or you throw Taven Jackson in there, and he throws an interception. He goes, oh, what an idiot he must be. Throw in the kid that hasn't played at all, no rhythm, and I'd be on Twitter the same way that I always am. It just doesn't make any sense to me. The people that say, oh, well, we play to lose, you were playing for a top, that just makes no sense to me. That just there's no logic in that argument except for emotion. That's all.
And with the way overtime is in college football, if you can take any team to overtime, you have a chance to win.
Anything can happen. Anything.
It's literally an even playing field. Each team gets possession.
Oh, yeah.
You're not playing for a tie. You're playing for what you think you have the best chance or the best scenario for your team to, perform in.
100%. And the entire game told Tom Allen, if you don't get 8 on the first snap, kick the field goal. Your defense has been awesome. There's a chance you have a bunch of timeouts that you get the ball back with a chance to go kick it again. You don't plan for the 80-yard touchdown catch. Even when they had the 80-yard touchdown catch, we had a minute and 40 seconds.
Yep.
And then we get strip sacked. It goes out of the end zone. And now, now we're the bad news bears, right? Oh, woe is me. But when you look at the game as a whole, sucks. It was the most Indiana ending ever. I know it, dude. I was a part of it for 5 years. I know it. It sucks. But you have to get in that position for something like that to happen. If you throw Taven Jackson out there and throw an interception, they're going to run the ball 3 times, get a first down, game over, and that you never have a chance. You gave yourself a chance to get to overtime where anything can happen against a team that you've never, ever beat in their home field. And you just have a much better chance in overtime. That's my opinion, and I'm sticking to it, John.
I'm with you. I'm with you, honestly. And now the thing I don't want to give a negative twist to this, but what you don't want to do is make this performance meaningless by laying an egg against Wisconsin. The way you make progress is not even just come out and compete against Wisconsin at home. But this is a team that you can absolutely beat. And not because Indiana's that good, but it's because the rest of the Big Ten, outside of the 3 teams that have already beaten you, Penn State, Michigan, and Ohio State, the big 3 at least, and they lost more than 3 games, but you know what I'm getting at.
Yes.
Everyone on your schedule left is beatable.
Yeah,
and if you want,
Big Ten is not good. It is not a good conference. Anybody can beat anybody, and it goes back to the argument, we have the same athletes. We just have to get some momentum. We haven't played with momentum in 700 days. Now that you've got some, hopefully they continue to air it out.
With it.
And now the conversation changes. If Brendan Sorsby turns out does have some kind of AC issue and can't throw the ball, You roll with Taven Jackson. He's going to have
Yep.
time to prep. He's going to get loose. He's going to go through the warm-up as the starting quarterback. You just can't put him in with 2 minutes left at Penn State.
And Rod Carey, not only is Tom Allen playing for his job, but this is essentially a live audition for Rod Carey to be the offensive coordinator going forward as well, if things work out in that nature. But
yeah,
this seems like a good place to wrap it up.
Yeah, sorry we went a little long.
No, it's okay. I mean, I figured this one would be a little longer. I knew there was a lot of explaining to do with the final part of that game, and I'm glad you got to have some fun on Twitter with it. And hopefully, I just hope to see them take this to the next game, because what I thought was going to happen after the Louisville game was that they were going to play Akron and blow them out of the water, beat them by 30 or 40 points. They won that game in overtime and probably shouldn't have won it at all. So you just reverse that narrative in the back part of the season and give yourself some momentum and give people, and I know basketball season's here, so a lot of Indiana fans have turned their attention to that. Do what you will if you're one of those fans, but I'd love to see the football team finish on a high note, and we'll just have to wait and see what happens next week.
Yeah, I'm excited for Saturday, and that's the first time that I've said that probably. I get excited every year for the first game of the season because I think we're going to go undefeated. But, yeah, I'm truly excited to watch them on Saturday, and it's refreshing. If you can't be happy for a performance like that when you are in the darkest depths of the abyss 7 days prior, and now all of a sudden you're mad because we didn't try to win at Penn State on what are we even talking about? So I'm excited. Wisconsin's beatable, but for whatever reason that they come in and we just don't match up for the past 100 years.
Good news is, though, you're not playing in Camp Randall. You're not playing Camp Randall.
Yeah. Take it to
them. Let them fall asleep to the Memorial Stadium crowd and take advantage, right?
Take advantage. Let's take it to them. I'm excited. If they find a way to beat Wisconsin, it's literally who knows. Because Michigan State is horrible. Purdue is horrible. Illinois has been horrible, and they've been great. There's a chance that you're going to be 6-6.
Yeah, exactly. Like and again, we're pushing 30 minutes. Yeah. Mitchell, was the 6-6 team that went to the Pinstripe Bowl? Weren't their backs against the wall where they had to win X amount of games in a row to get to bowl eligibility?
I think it was 2 or 3. Yeah.
Okay. Now this is 4, so that'd be a big, tall ask, but we'll have to wait and see. Thanks for checking out another episode of Indiana Football in Review. It was a fun one, as always. Yeah. And check out Out of Touch, as always, too. Comes out every Wednesday on my YouTube channel, John Alden, or you can find us on Spotify. Just search Out of Touch. And until next time, we'll talk to you after the Wisconsin game. Thanks for listening.